Whoa, everybody. Yeah, I'm back. Well, I have always been here. So is Marcus, but somebody is back, right, Marcus? Somebody. Who is it?
Boy, oh boy, Dominic, that was quite a debut.
What are you talking? What are you referring to exactly? Are you referring to something in particular?
You suck.
This is two Dynamite dudes on a rampage, but somebody else is on a rampage, and it's none other than CM Punk. CM Punk has returned to professional wrestling, and that happened on Rampage last night on Dynamite. We're going against SummerSlam right now live. Me and my degenerate brother Marcus. I am pro wrestling journalist Dominic DeAngelo of WrestleZone.com. And thank you for joining us. We are, like I said, we're live, so join on in the conversation. If SummerSlam's not slamming you enough, then we'll slam you right here. Marcus, how you doing today?
Getting out of control, Dominic. I'm doing well. Excited to talk about what I believe to be the biggest debut in the history of pro wrestling.
History of pro wrestling?
I can't think of one bigger.
I was gonna say but memorable debuts, like the most memorable debut probably in our wrestling fandom, Jericho, on Raw.
Yeah, but it's Jericho didn't get the sort of reaction that Punk got, not by a long shot.
It was fucking crazy, man.
Taz is probably a second to this one. That's really the only one in WWE.
Yeah, what's up, Steven? Steven's in the house.
Yo, Steven, what's going on, man? But then Taz fizzled out right away. Not his fault. WWE just didn't like him. Vince thought he was too short or whatever. And but I mean, what a debut he had coming out beating the undefeated Kurt Angle.
Right, man. Yeah, but Marcus, it was crazy. I did happen to send a tweet to CM Punk right before the show, so maybe he'll come on. I invited him on the show.
I would assume he'll be with us shortly.
Yeah, he might be here. You never know. That's you cast the line out there. Talk a little hockey. I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes.
I'll tell you what, Ricky is not fucking around over there. He's ready to talk Bray Wyatt.
He's ready to talk Bray Wyatt.
On to the next, pal.
Oh, we'll get there. But yeah, Marcus, let's obviously we got to talk about CM Punk returning to wrestling.
Yes, absolutely.
Holy smokes, Marcus, how'd you think? I mean, we talked about it just right now, but how'd you think it all was executed? Let's just start off with just them kicking it off right then and there with them walking down to the ring, and then we'll get to the details of the promo afterwards. But
it was kind of having him come down to the ring like that was kind of the only way to do it, because everybody knew he was there, everybody knew he was coming out, and it's like, let's just do it, let's just jump right into it. So they brought him out, nailed it, and dude, I'm telling you, I don't get chills often while I'm watching anything on TV. I got chills. I got legit chills watching that. You could see the emotion on his face. You could see the emotion, obviously, on the fans' faces. I think one of them got turned into a meme recently.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that too. I have that on the list.
Yes, but man, it was something else. I've never seen anything like it in all my time watching wrestling. I don't remember, honestly. Anybody in the comments, can you think of a bigger debut? I can't come up with one.
I really can't either, honestly.
I think Bret Hart could have been that big, but it was botched.
Yeah. Scott Hall's, I think, has that lasting impact where you look back and wow, that was a big one. But it was also, and I think maybe for the time it might have meant something. But again, we weren't tuned in at that point, and we became tuned in later on. So that says something for a debut. But that wasn't even technically a debut, I guess, because he was Diamond Stud before in WCW. But
yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're right. Scott Hall's, as far as historical, Scott Hall's might be the most historical, but I mean, at least to this point, who knows? Maybe CM Punk's will go down as even more historical.
I know. Definitely, it's got to be at least the very least top 3, I would think, right?
Benjamin's like, come on, what are you guys doing? We're trying to watch.
It's really on right now. Yeah, we're rivaling SummerSlam.
Trying to watch SummerSlam over here, man.
We're going against competition here. That's right, we're competition.
That's what this is, the Saturday Night Wars.
Here I am in my fucking office. Marcus is in his man cave there, and we're going up against the 50,000 something at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas.
They don't stand a chance.
Not a chance, man. Look, we're just boiling over with people.
Yeah, I mean, we probably should wait till tomorrow.
I was thinking that maybe. But you know what? We pull the trigger right here and right now. I tweeted it out. I was like, I tweeted out there in the ether. We got to stick with it,
Yep. Yeah, Benjamin, CM Punk though, dude, it's something else. We were just talking about it. It's an incredible debut. Honestly, anybody in the comments, come up with a bigger one. I'm honest. I'm genuinely asking. I'm not challenging anybody. I really want to know. Nesha, what's up? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Nesha's in. She's like, "What the fuck? I'm over here trying to watch SummerSlam."
Giving me hell last night about it. But Marcus, I think him walking out like that, and just showing that raw emotion, and like him getting like choked up and teared up about it too. But then him just loving life, like diving into the crowd and like hugging people, like just going by and hugging people and stuff like that. It was really, really cool to see. And like,
I'll tell you what, the part that really stuck out for me during all of it was a line that he had where he said, I was never going to get better staying in the place that made me sick in the first place. And it was just like, damn.
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah. I mean, it was still unbelievable on the mic. I'm expecting a lot of great moments. And Dominic, is this it? Are the tides turning in professional wrestling? Is AEW the unstoppable force in professional wrestling?
It's the hot ticket, that's for sure. I mean, you just look at what WWE has done over the course of the past 20 years since it unseated WCW, and you look at what developed. Like, I mean, from a global perspective, from like the hierarchy and Wall Street and all these shareholders and like just TV deals and them establishing themselves as the wrestling brand, which we'll talk about that in a second too, wrestling. But you look at that, and I don't think you can look at it from that perspective. Who knows? Like, at some point, there's plenty of signs that shows, obviously with the infrastructure of what WWE presents as a television product is not engaging to fans, is dry. SummerSlam's going on right now, and like that crowd is raucous from what I was reading in the tweets and stuff like that. So obviously, like, people love WWE and stuff like that. There's that huge fan base. But hey, what we saw on Friday night is how hot you can see wrestling again. See it, that crowd reaction, him being back, certified bona fide star. You want to see Jungle Boy get to that level. You want to see Darby Allin get to that level. You want to see Orange Cassidy get to that level. You want to see Kenny Omega get to that level. Like, and the list goes on. But and that's the same thing with stars in WWE. That's what you would want to see from them. But when have we heard a Road Warrior pop like that?
Never. I don't expect to hear one again. At least not for many years. It was an unbelievable debut. And I was thinking about it earlier today, Dominic. AEW is probably a lot like what WCW would look like today, if you really think about it. It's they're picking up talent that's either been released by WWE or has been dissatisfied by WWE. That was WCW. So it's backed by a billionaire who's coming in from another realm. So it's, I don't know, man. It's the logo. I mean, it's clearly the AEW logo is clearly a spinoff of the old WCW logo. So it's just it's honestly it's kind of like in 2019 we got WCW back, and slowly but surely they're starting to pick up momentum, and they're starting to get some of these big names. And guess, like a lot of people are calling it like WWE Light or whatever it is. But here's the thing is that, and you and I have discussed this ad nauseum, but like when you bring in a big talent like CM Punk, you bring in a big talent like Bryan Danielson, they help to level up the other talent as well. It happened with Hall and Nash when they came to WCW. Diamond Dallas Page was kind of squandering in the mid card. The next thing you know, these guys come in, they see something in him, they up his value by putting him over and making him look strong. Next thing you know, DDP is one of the hottest tickets in professional wrestling.
Yeah, right. Packaged him the right way. DDP just kind of embraced like who he was as like a people's champion and the fighting guy that goes against WCW. You incorporate that with the loner Sting, and then you mix in Goldberg later on, and you have like the forces, some viable forces going against the NWO.
Yeah.
Now with this, and I thought it was it was such a well-delivered promo by Punk. And like, yeah, it really, because I'm thinking like, he's so emotional. Is he going to be able to execute a promo? Like, like with that emotion flowing through him at this point. He just fucking nailed it. Like there was and what he said too about like August 13th, 2005 ROH was I left professional wrestling, and like never saying WWE those letters, but referring WWE, and he's like August 20th, 2021, I'm back.
Yeah, I mean that's something else where he's just like basically he never spent time in professional wrestling since he was in ROH, which is a pretty pointed remark by him. Dominic, I'm seeing something here by Steven from a little bit earlier.
Sure.
I think that we should address it. He said probably won't get a big reaction like that whenever Daniel Bryan shows up, and I think that he raises a point that I want to ask you about. What's it going to take following a giant debut by CM Punk to make Bryan Danielson's debut look big or bigger?
I think the key is time. You have time now to get CM Punk over at All Out. I mean, not get him over, obviously, he's over. But I mean, you have time to cultivate the story of CM Punk's return to wrestling through All Out. Then heck, like we've been talking and like everybody's expecting, you make him debut at Arthur Ashe. I think you build that groundswell up for somebody like Daniel Bryan, where you like, okay, you rode, and that wave will still ride with CM Punk, but you're riding another wave too now with Daniel Bryan coming in, and that the groundswell will be up there for you in New York City for that. So I think the key for Bryan Danielson now is just time. Like let it play out. You've created, you have the big ticket in Punk right now. You'll have another big ticket in Bryan coming up, but build that anticipation just like you did with Punk, and he'll deliver. I think they can do it, and I think it's just another 1-2 punch that they can deliver. You know,
absolutely. And by the way, what's up, Rumar? What's up, everybody? Thank you guys for joining us.
Thanks for joining
as always. Benjamin, Aaron, Steven, all you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Feel free to keep dropping comments.
Yeah, feel free to chime in. We'll get to stuff. Marcus is a fucking notorious about diverting.
I do. But Dominic, back on Daniel Bryan. See, I can bring it back. But Dominic, back on Daniel Bryan. I think that kind of the best way to do it too is keep MJF hot, keep MJF going over people, keep him being controversial, keep him being a complete asshole and fucking with people, and just like continue to build that heat for him. And then at Arthur Ashe, just when he's like kind of reaching a fever pitch where it's just like this guy's an asshole, but he's unstoppable. Then you debut Daniel Bryan, and you have that Flight of the Bumblebees come on, which, by the way, is not licensed by WWE. They can't license it.
You mean Rise of the Valkyrie?
Whatever it is. I thought it was Flight of the Bumblebee. I don't know what it's called. Well, whatever his theme is called. Like, oh, that's right. That's right. Well, just like CM Punk's theme, you know, it's not a WWE original, so they can use it. So I mean, I think that music can hit, especially when MJF is like dressing down the crowd or acting like a stuck-up psycho. And I think that would be pretty much the only way to come anywhere. You're not going to come near that CM Punk pop, but I think that you could approach close.
You're not, but listen, man, and the thing is Arthur Ashe Stadium too, that's outside, so like the sound won't keep in there either. What I wanted to say too was in regards with Punk, I'm thinking, you know, Darby and him are the starting, like it's like a respectful kind of feud that kind of just, you know, gets Punk in the mix, you know, against a star that you want to get over and stuff like that, further get over. And then I think, hey, we talked about it, and we'll get to this here in a second too. Well, in a little bit, is MJF doesn't have a match at All Out right now. So what's that setting up for? Perhaps he attacks Punk, you know, after, you know, him and Darby have a match or something to that effect. And then, I mean, that's just imagining you got to think Tony Khan is chomping at the fucking bit, wanting to get CM Punk on a mic against MJF on a mic. You know? Like
as somebody who's done a lot of writing in my life, picturing those kind of chess pieces entering my board, I'd be like sitting down at my desk like, oh boy. Oh boy. It's gonna be fun. So yeah, I mean, he's got so many directions to move in. Honestly, I strongly believe that MJF versus Bryan Danielson is a good way to start. I think that you should let's jump into it. Let's get CM Punk and Kenny Omega, in my opinion.
Well, okay, that was my point I was going to make, and you talked about that too. To get a big reaction, like you're wanting to build that groundswell up for Daniel Bryan the same way you want for Punk. Another way to do that is put him right in the title picture, like right off the bat with Kenny. Kenny's just substitute what you were saying for MJF and keep it with Kenny.
Sure.
And then you have the title in the picture. You automatically put Daniel Bryan even at a higher level, like even though he's already a big star. So I think that would be a way to handle it, and kind of and because like honestly, you can have Punk just go up against MJF, and that's still just a hot ticket as ever too. So I mean,
Dom, Nesha feels that you and I look a lot alike right now, and I've never been more offended.
Oh, well, Marcus, I think you should take that as a compliment. I am running for, when I go to All Out, I think there's a
Mr. All Out contest.
Mr. All Out pageant going on. I have a speech lined up. It's going to happen.
Probably start writing that now, Dom.
The Wingman's All Out party. That's what it's going to happen. Hot Boy Summer. I'm going to be there, guys. So
waxed and vaxxed, baby.
Waxed and vaxxed, ready to roll.
Anyways, where were we? I diverted again. Go ahead.
Well, that's a good diversion right there. Is Mr. All Out pageant.
Yikes.
Let's see. So, but Marcus, yeah, I think. What do you think? Okay, do you think that the ratings for Rampage on Friday are going to be Dynamite?
Wait, you're asking if the ratings from yesterday are going to beat the ratings from Wednesday?
Yes.
Haven't they come out yet?
Not yet. The ratings for Dynamite came out, and they were just a little bit lower than they were last week.
Unquestionably, yes. Everybody knew that CM Punk was coming out on Rampage, so yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, Rampage will be higher.
Okay, I would be interested now. Like Punk's going to show up on Wednesday too. They announced him on Wednesday for Milwaukee.
You can expect these ratings to continue to rise. I really believe that. Because people are going to be wondering, okay, what's CM Punk going to do next? When's Daniel Bryan going to show up? Who else is coming out? And that is the formula. And I told you this, I think, back when we first started this podcast. That's the formula for success. Is like you need to always have the crowd thinking, what is going to happen? Like, okay, CM Punk just came out this week. Who is somebody going to come out next week? Oh, WWE released Bray Wyatt. When's he going to show up? How about Daniel Bryan? The rumor is he's coming in. So it's like week after week, you're just building this intrigue. And I think you have to keep that ball rolling while also taking a look at the roster that you've got there and say, who am I not using? Who can I get rid of? Because it will become unsustainable if you've got too many people on the roster, as, again, we've been discussing.
Yeah. I think so. Let's talk about this then. The report today, I don't know if you've even seen this, Marcus. Yeah, is Bray Wyatt is expected to sign with AEW.
I have not heard it. So
Meltzer reported today on the Wrestling Observer Radio. He said now nothing is like concrete. There's likely no pen to paper, obviously, because his non-compete clause is up. But it seems to be rolling in that direction. That Bray Wyatt will be all elite forthcoming once that non-compete does run out. Mark, we've talked about it before. Now that it's becoming like this is little bit more of a clear indicator here. How would you incorporate Bray Wyatt into the AEW picture?
I know that you and I had discussed possibly bringing him in as just what's his name? Wyndham Rotunda. I know that was a possibility, and I think that it could work. You could bring him as Wyndham Rotunda. However, I do think that there's this thing in pro wrestling where it's almost like campy B movies, right? Where it's like we appreciate a lot of the campy B movie stuff that comes with pro wrestling, which is why we appreciate characters like The Undertaker. And there's kind of a crossover whenever it comes to wrestling fans between that genre and the horror genre. There always has been, and I think that there always will be. And The Undertaker kind of helped to pioneer it, but it's been a thing. And so I strongly believe, I'm not saying bring him in as the Fiend, but I am saying that might not hurt to bring him in as like a split personality nut job, where like sometimes he's Wyndham Rotunda and sometimes he's this other thing.
Yeah, so maybe like not a supernatural villain, like say
like The Undertaker was summoning lightning and shit.
but more like a Victor Zsasz of Batman or something.
Sure, but like basically it's like two different sides of this one human, where it's like, which guy's going to come out this week? Which guy am I going to see backstage during this segment? You know?
Yeah, like you don't want to go into. I think Tony Khan's kind of indicated that he doesn't want to go into the route of like, broken Matt Hardy stuff, where it's like teleportation and stuff like that again, or anything to that effect.
I think he learned his lesson.
Yeah, I think that's just a tough thing to get over when you don't have a live crowd either. I mean, geez, oh man, so that's a tough thing. But let's see. I think there you can find something to that effect. I think it just makes sense. I think from a really good Pat LeGrand. Geez, I know Pat LeGrand. I can't remember his name, but he wrote the Andre the Giant book. Dave Meltzer had him on Wrestling Observer Radio to talk Dominic DeNucci, R.I.P. by the way, Pittsburgh's very own.
Oh man, what a loss.
Mm-hmm.
He trained, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Dominic DeNucci, he trained Mick Foley. He trained Shane Douglas. He trained a lot of people, as a matter of fact. And, not to mention he had a great career of his own. He was tag team partners with Bruno Sammartino. He was in the Pittsburgh Studio Wrestling back in the day.
The top star in Australia, too, for a long extended time.
Yep. So Dominic DeNucci, an unbelievable talent. Dominic and I both had the pleasure of meeting him about a year ago, actually. Maybe over a year ago now. It's been a while. Yeah, probably closer to 2 years by now. But had the pleasure of meeting him. Such a kind man. Huge loss for wrestling business.
Exactly. Yeah, very big loss. But he was on there, Pat LeGrand, and he talked about how would you bring how would you bring Bray Wyatt in as, like, he pitched what everybody kind of talks about is maybe the new leader of the Dark Order, and I think you could do something like that. If you shift the whole perspective of Dark Order.
Well, Dominic, I got to say, Steven's really tickling my fancy a little bit here tonight, because he's saying bring in Bo Dallas, Rotunda Brothers. Dominic, what about like Minnesota Wrecking Crew? Forget all this supernatural shit. Bring him in as like the Rotunda Boys.
You know what?
And go old school with it.
There's a play that we were always, or I was very interested in doing, by Martin McDonough, called Lonesome West, where two brothers, like dysfunctional, kind of like us, they were like super violent and super wild and just like nuts. They're just nuts. And they lived in Ireland and stuff. But if you created those guys from that perspective, where you almost blend the Wyndham Rotunda as like this, like, nut job kind of, and you have his brother too in the mix, you can create a couple of wild men coming in and run roughshod on in the tag division.
I mean, I've been watching a lot of old school NWA recently, specifically the Minnesota Wrecking Crew, Ole and Arn, and watching those guys and how vicious they were and how great they were as heels. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing something like that come about again.
Yeah, no, I would love that. I think that'd be very awesome.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty darn cool. Heck, and you could bring in. I know we're signing a lot of people here, but Joe Henning too, maybe to get in that mix.
Love Joe Hennig. Dominic, so let's talk about something that's not easy to talk about when it comes to pro wrestling, because you want to see everybody make money. You want to see everybody prosper and do well in this business. But there's so many people on the roster, Dom.
Yes.
Who in your mind, and I hate to use a word like expendable here, but who in your mind is expendable on this roster? Because there's only so much TV time. And you're not doing these. I mean, obviously, if they're signed to guaranteed contracts, you're kind of doing them favors. But like long term, when their contract runs out, if they haven't had TV exposure, that's not great for their career.
Yeah, I mean, you have the ability of, if you're that wrestler that's maybe not featured as much, at least like you can run, and AEW lets you do it. AEW lets you go on the independent scene, and like you get a shot. Like, for example, they come to Pittsburgh. A lot of the IWC wrestlers wrestled on the dark card and stuff like that. They get a little shot, and guess what you can put on there? AEW, appeared on AEW on your poster and stuff like that. It kind of raises your bar a little bit.
AEW superstar or whatever.
Well, you're not like, I don't know how far you can go with that necessarily, but you can at least have an AEW logo by your fucking picture on there and stuff like that. I think we kind of talked about it. I think what I would do is like just kind of not necessarily have them on retainer, like certain stars on retainer, but like rotate them through. And like you have that culpability of the connections with Impact. You're getting rotation of connection with NWA and Empower and stuff like that, and what Mickey James is doing there. And then New Japan, you have you're forming a bond with them. Thunder Rosa's Mission Pro Wrestling too, the all women's Mission Pro Wrestling. Different outlets that you can do, and like it doesn't necessarily mean that. I just think you can rotate talent through, but you got to kind of funnel it into where you have a select amount of stars that you want to promote over the course of your mainstream 3-hour programs that you have over the
and Dom, I think you're making a good point here, because there is a working relationship with promotions like Impact and promotions like NWA. So why not work together with them and say like, hey, look, we are not using, let's just say Chris Statlander, even though they've been using her a lot and she's doing great. We aren't using Chris Statlander as much as we thought. Do you guys want to take her and put her on your TV for a little bit? And Dom, I saw you just highlighted Jorge there. What if Dominic, Impact, NWA, and AEW said, hey, we're going to have a draft?
I think that would be pretty cool. Obviously, the thing is like you all have a working relationship. And you all have, it is very much like the territories because each promotion wants to, have their stars highlighted and, make sure that they're the top stars. So, I mean, you could kind of work something like that out. That would be pretty damn interesting. I think that would have to be something a little bit further down the line if you're going to do anything to that aspect. Because not only this, but I think AEW wants to get itself over as a brand and probably like as on a TNT product, you want to get yourself over as the brand for wrestling. So, like, I think you want to establish that out. And MLW has been pretty adamant about this too. Is like keeping the stuff just to like on the focus on them. So, I think you kind of want to do that. But I think eventually, if you cultivate this more of an audience and get more people into it, I think you can definitely do something like that. Where it's all encompassing and you do focus. You can do a spin on it, where it's like, or maybe you get a pool of these wrestlers, not all of them, but a pool of these wrestlers. Like, hey, we got a draft coming up, and boom, let's do selections. You could really make a cool event out of that, I think. And,
absolutely.
And if you adhere to it, like WWE's been awful at adhering to their draft, but I mean, heck, if you do it right, I don't see a problem with it, honestly.
And you make a good point. What if you take like kind of the lower half of your card, the guys as we've been talking about who haven't been utilized well?
Yeah.
You do the same thing with NWA and Impact, put them all in a draft and say like, all right, we're all keeping all of our top guys, but let's draft these guys.
Here's the thing too. You have like stuff like potentially AEW does the win-loss record. What if you started really keeping count on across the promotions across the board of what their wins-loss records are across the board? You get past a certain level. This guy's going to be eligible for the draft coming up because A, maybe he hasn't wrestled enough, he or she hasn't wrestled enough, or B, maybe they're not winning enough matches. And it's going to be you make that. I mean, it's a sports-like feel. You make that happen, and you could probably tell some interesting stories to that, where it's like, you don't want it to be a heavy focus on your show throughout the whole program, but it could be stuff to talk about.
I don't see why. Like, I'm not saying WWE had the right formula, but I don't think there was anything wrong with the way that they did the draft. You do like a few picks, and you do like a match or two, backstage segment, more picks. I don't know. I think it could work.
Yeah, I think it's something to definitely think about. Let's see.
Anything else on Bray Wyatt though?
I just think it's just like to what we said. I mean, it's a lot of people, but obviously he's a name that has cachet, and
he's one you can't let slip through your fingers.
He's not one, and it wouldn't make sense to not sign him, right? If you have the option to sign him.
You have to. So it's like I said before. The way that WWE marketed him for the amount of time that they marketed him, there is an unbelievable amount of equity in him. And I'm talking like they probably put about as much marketing power behind him as they did behind somebody like, let's say, Roddy Piper, the Ultimate Warrior, where it's like you're seeing his face all over the place. He's on T-shirts. There's toys, commercials, belts. He's all over the place. And so they spent all that time and they spent all those millions of dollars to market this guy. And they're like, hey, by the way, we don't need you. And they let him go. You have to swoop in on somebody like that. Have to.
Yeah.
Because his face and his name and his likeness have been out there for long enough that he's gonna draw a crowd wherever he goes.
Yeah. Steven also says Impact Wrestling also has a good women's division. Why not work with them? Absolutely.
Sure.
Deonna Purrazzo, she's been throwing hints out there too. She acquired another belt too, the AAA women's title. I remember the name of it, but she acquired that too over at Triple Mania. And like her and Kenny got a picture together and everything like that. So
I gotta say, I wouldn't hate it if Cody was like a tweener on NWA and AEW, where like let's say he takes on Nick Aldis again, maybe grabs the 10 pounds of gold.
Yeah.
And it starts bringing that on TV and saying like, hey, I'm not able to compete for the AEW championship, but that's all right because this is the real one.
Right. No, it's there's a lot of talent. It's a situation that they can work out, and hopefully they figure something out because you do want to focus on your stars, and it's like so many, they get lost in the shuffle, and you don't want that to happen overall. You want stuff to kind of be like, okay, we got to focus on these guys. We can always come back. We can always circle back around and get you back in the loop and stuff like that. And but very interesting times. Marcus, let's talk about how Dynamite kicked off with Sting and Darby Allin. First time in 20 years Sting has wrestled on TNT, Marcus. Did you know that?
I did. Okay. And let me tell you, Dom, he looked like $1 million. It's like I was expecting him to like come out in the t-shirt and stuff, and it's just like, okay, he's old, it's like no big deal. But he came out, he's in great condition. Mm-hmm. He wrestled well, took a hell of a bump there near the end where they were putting him up. I'm like, okay, he's got to get out of this.
Yeah, right.
Put him through, like he's got to fight out of this or something. Nope, put him right through the table. But he gets up, no sells it, pounds his chest. Dude, it was something to see.
That finish was so cool too because like he pounds his chest, they back up in fear, and Darby double drop kicks them into Sting, and he gives him this double scorpion, the stereo scorpion death drops, and then locks him in. Like that was perfect, all perfectly executed. Like
AEW is just leveling up, dude, all over the map. And like you wouldn't expect Sting to look as good as he did, but he does. He looks awesome. I want to see him in a singles match. I want to see him compete against Kenny Omega. I want to see what he's got, because he looks good. And obviously, you're probably gonna have to gimmick any match he's in. It's probably gonna have to be a street fight or something, a cage match, something like that. Just because it's he can't quite move the way that he used to. But like, I think if you get him in the ring with the right people, I think he's still got good enough timing that he's gonna do fine.
Because heck, I mean, you even look at the tag match that they just did. Like they did like street fight-esque, obviously stuff. Like it was a street fight, wasn't it? So
yeah, and it was good.
It was good, and they
what do they call it? A Texas tornado match.
Texas tornado tag in Houston. Yeah. So made perfect sense, and it was such a dude. I felt so elated watching that and covering it. I was like, this is so fucking cool. It's Sting, and he's kicking ass, and it
was awesome.
It was great, man. It was great, and you incorporate such fresh young talent like Darby and Eddie Kingston and Mox, and then you have 2.0 in there. It's just like it was very, very well done, and really kicked off the show in a hot manner. It'll be cool to see, and that's a neat thing too that we didn't even really talk about that much is like Darby Allin going against Punk at All Out with Sting in his corner. Sting and Punk have never really crossed paths. So
no, and now here they are together. Man, it's such a fun time to be a wrestling fan. And like honestly, I was thinking about this today. What can WWE do at this point to fire back? How can they? Because I mean, like I love Goldberg. You love Goldberg.
Oh yeah.
But like bringing back Goldberg isn't going to compete with CM Punk or Daniel Bryan. It's just not going to. So like, what can they do, WWE at this point? Who can they grab that's gonna turn the tide for them?
I mean, obviously you bring in The Rock or somebody like that, but even that market,
it's unsustainable. Yes, it's good, but is The Rock going to be there in 4 months? Nope.
Even that, like, it's more of an overall framework of how WWE is. It's not something short term that you can do. Like to right the ship. Obviously, they have such a huge lead on AEW with an audience and viewership and, just the brand. The brand is just, you associate WWE with wrestling, even though it's not, as CM Punk said. But that's what people associate wrestling with today. And it's so, but if you want to write, you have to make the adjustments. And I mean, it's not going to change unless the top guy relents on creative, and that's Vince. Like
Dominic Nesha feels that Becky's going to be showing up tonight. Is that going to be enough to turn the tide? I'm going to say no.
No, I'm not. I mean, it would charge it up. People are that's going to be the buzz. Like, they're going to do what they can to kind of push back at what they did what AEW did on Friday with Punk. And that's hard to go against, because even the rumors of Bray Wyatt coming to be today, like, that's another buzz. Hey, look at who's going. And like friend of the show, Mark Madden, also said that he heard that Fox was not happy that AEW got Punk and WWE did not. So I mean,
yikes.
It's just like, you look at that, like, people are taking note, and it's the ratings. That's one thing, but you look at Raw and you look at what AEW is doing on Dynamite, the numbers aren't that far off. Obviously, SmackDown has a bigger platform because it's on Fox, but it's just like, there's so much going on. Let's see. Rumar says here that WWE depending on past wrestlers to help their ratings and not believing in their young talent shows that they don't trust them. Can't find no way to push them hard. Exactly. Like, it's like, and that's been the ongoing situation for years on end, because Vince relies on, established acts such as Goldberg and, you name it, The Rock, Cena,
They'll bring out Stone Cold to have like a beer bash or something every once in a while to like pop a rating.
Right. Exactly. It's, yeah. So it's like, it's something that needs to be done over time. And I mean, nothing's going to change unless Vince steps down. That's the bottom line. That's it. Like, that's how WWE can fire back.
They're kind of behind the eight ball a little bit, though, because AEW has been establishing this new talent, and then this new talent is getting over. So it's like, could you sign Adam Cole to this $1 million a year contract and then just like debut him on TV, and would that be enough? I don't think it would.
It's not. It's because it's all about how you position and book these stars. Like, nobody under this landscape, under what WWE presents, unless it's The Rock, and even The Rock. Unless it's The Rock, they're not gonna get to that level, because there's a ceiling there in WWE. It's a ceiling, and that ceiling is Vince McMahon. It's it.
Sorry to interrupt. Aaron is saying let Big E cash in. I think that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, it is, because it's something that shakes up, your product, and WWE rarely does that. They rarely do something that, wow. I mean, because Marcus, you haven't been watching the product, neither really have I. But what do we hear is like repeat matches week in, week out. Like, Raw has the same matches every week. Like, there's been months on end where it's like, Sheamus has been fighting like, I know this isn't that long, but Damian Priest. But there's been other ones where it's just like, okay, we're seeing this again. The Usos fighting Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio. It's like, you get those all the time. It's a lazy booking. It's arrogant, some may say, and things like that, where you just like feeling, hey, I can get away with this stuff because we are the product. And Vince, even on that conference call, like, dismissed AEW not as competition, and then was like, hey, maybe we'll give them more of their stars. And look what happens. Punk was already in the fucking plans at that juncture, and Daniel Bryan already signed a deal at that juncture. Now there's talks of Bray Wyatt. What's Adam Cole going to do after this weekend? Is he going to stick around? Is he done? It's just a lot to fucking think about.
And like, if you're Adam Cole, Dominic, like, grass is looking pretty good on the other side, is it not? You've got all these debuts. You've got huge pops for CM Punk. You've got Bray Wyatt possibly coming in. And best of all, his fiance is there. I think that she's his fiance at this point, right? They're not just boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yeah.
Britt. So like, his fiance is there, so he get to work with her, be with her more often, probably work less days. I'm telling you, the grass would be looking pretty good if I'm Adam Cole.
Somebody brought up something really great. Was like Daniel Garcia. Like obviously he main evented on Rampage on Friday. We'll talk about that in a second. But there's that other talent that was on AEW months and months and months ago. Ben Carter. Do you remember him at all, Marcus?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh wait, yes, I do.
Tore it up. Was really amazing. Had an amazing match. I think with Ricky Starks. He had an amazing match with. He signed with WWE. But when's the last we heard of Ben Carter?
Yeah, I mean it's been a while.
He's on the NXT UK brand. You just don't see anything. You don't see anything from and you see so many of these talents. Like you look at Jake Atlas. You look at even. I mean, this is more on a bigger scale, I guess. But even like Keith Lee to an extent, like these names get signed, and you're like, wow, this guy's a talent. You're going to see a lot coming from them, and then you don't see them.
Yeah.
You don't see them.
Nesh's daughter asked her about Nick Gage earlier, and she's only 9. Make sure she hasn't Googled that name.
Yeah, right?
Well, yeah, Dom. It's I like WWE because of all the great entertainment that we've gotten from them over the years, but they're unwatchable at this point. They really are, and yeah, I think that AEW is truly unstoppable at this point. I think that this is a foregone conclusion. It's WWE's got a real hole to dig themselves out of. The only thing that's saving them right now is their brand. That's it. It's not the product that they're putting out.
And that's eroding because, I mean, that's what they've been leaning on for how long? Like you don't associate you associate John Cena, you associate The Rock, you associate Stone Cold Steve Austin with WWE. But, other than that, and now Roman Reigns, but look at how long that's taken for Roman Reigns to, be an established star. And he's not even at a level of a Cena quite yet or anything like that.
I just can't get over the fact Bray Wyatt was so over. He was very over. I mean, they were starting to screw him up there, but 2 years ago,
they screwed him up. I think.
Let's even say 2 years ago at this time or whatever it was, he was one of the hottest acts in professional wrestling, and now he's just gone. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it's it defines so many wrestlers down, and a stale product like WWE. I mean. Yeah, it just doesn't do it, man. And but somebody that's been unstoppable has been MJF, Marcus. He tapped out Jericho on the 5th and final labor, and clean. What did you think of that main event?
It's the way it's supposed to be.
Okay.
The way it's supposed to be, Dom. The older guy putting over a younger guy who's rising. Baby face or heel doesn't matter. When you're the old veteran, that's your job. That's what Jericho is there to do at this point. Jericho, it's as you and I have discussed, I like him and I love his history. I love, the fact that he's got connections to WCW, WWE, ECW. He's been all over the world wrestling. So Jericho has a lot of value, but he's lost a few steps. And so that's supposed to turn into a storyline. Said, hey man, you used to be great, but you've lost a couple steps. And this young lion, MJF, he's going to beat you clean.
Yeah. And then Marcus, we talked about this before, Chris always redefines himself and, repackages himself. A great way to do it would be the aged Lionheart,
Sure.
Something to that effect where he comes back and, he wants to have this final run where he's going on a tear. And it's almost to the story that WWE told with Ric Flair when he was retiring and he went on the Intercontinental title run. And if he lost, he had to retire. Now, you don't have to necessarily do that to a T for Jericho, but something to that effect,
I wouldn't hate the idea. You and I discuss week after week how AEW should get a cruiserweight title. I wouldn't hate if Chris Jericho won the inaugural tournament.
Right.
When he returns.
He wins the inaugural title in AEW and then he wins the inaugural cruiserweight title. I think that would be a great story to tell.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I don't see a world title reign in his future anytime soon, but I think that he could give some credibility to something like a new title, like the cruiserweight title. Have him win the tournament, against all these young guys, against all odds. Chris Jericho comes out and he wins the cruiserweight title, puts a nice little bow on his career, and then if he's going to retire, put over a young guy on the way out. He gets the strap, retires Chris Jericho, and Chris takes his rightful place as an announcer.
That'd be pretty neat. It would be Jericho, I think, said too throughout this week or maybe the last week, he's you might not know when I retire. It just might come unexpected. I might just, and heck, it's something to think about too. Let's see. So no, and then hey, the singing of Judas, pretty cool moment. Or what'd you think about all that?
I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, we all knew it was coming.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would have been cooler if it was more organic, but I don't think there's an organic way to start that kind of groundswell.
Yeah, I think yeah, I didn't think that was. I think that was more so social media criticism, like, hey, it's a little manufactured or whatever. But come on, I mean, you set it up for that. There's not. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that. It's a matter of promotion. Wrestling is a promotion, a promoting business. So why not promote something that you can maybe try to get going?
More than anything, it's like WCW or WWE does their like then now forever thing, and they've got like all those highlights they're playing during it. That's one of those moments that's going to be playing, during AEW highlights. It'll be that, and then like Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa with the blood, and the CM Punk coming out. Of course, that's going to be a big moment. So it's like the Blood Brothers match, So it's going to be. It's more than anything. It's a highlight, like a feather in the cap of AEW.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is AEW is creating moments that you're gonna remember, like where it's just like, okay, I remember when that happened or this, and there's a lot of cool stuff that they were able to do that not only is a modern day for modern fans to appreciate, but a lot of this stuff tips the cap to like classic wrestling stuff too, where it's just like, okay, a big debut happens. Wow, like this one of a kind moment where people are like singing the song and stuff like that. It's unique.
Not a thing you see often. Dominic, Aaron was in the same place as you last week here in Pittsburgh.
Oh, really?
He was at Dynamite in Pittsburgh last week.
Oh, okay.
Talking about how WWE's kind of taken him out of wrestling, but AEW's brought him back in, and it's a different energy. It's a different vibe when you're in that arena with AEW.
He went to Dynamite Pittsburgh last week. I liked WrestleMania and the other WWE events, but I really enjoyed Dynamite more. The energy was so different. It was more fun in AEW. Yeah, man. Like, it was. Like, I haven't been a part of a crowd like that. Gosh, I would have to say that's like the first, maybe since All In, actually, like in 2018. That crowd was raucous, and they booed the heels and cheered the baby faces for the most part. And like, I wrote a column on WrestleZone about Pittsburgh and how like, there's been like this kind of over thing, like where people kind of have this impression of Pittsburgh. It's like, okay, they sit on their hands or not, but Pittsburgh historically is, I mean, obviously with Bruno Sammartino ties, studio wrestling, everything like that, it's a wrestling city. So, and I think being at Dynamite and getting that moment of like Christian beating Kenny, Britt Baker getting those pops, really played to it being like reestablishing it as a city and like reminding people, hey, Pittsburgh is a wrestling town, just like Philly is, just like New York is, just like Chicago is. It's one of the towns, baby. And I think, getting to both those shows, Dynamite and Rampage, I think really told that story. Okay,
all right, Aaron's from Pittsburgh. All right, us too. So that's cool.
It's maybe Little Lily days this week.
Wrestling City. Dominic, Steven Chambers is saying, do you guys see Adam Cole appearing at All Out? Nope. I think that there's going to be a contractual obligation.
No, there won't be, I don't think, if he decides to not sign.
If he doesn't sign, isn't there still a non-compete clause?
No, that expires.
Really?
So that's why Daniel Bryan, his contract expired. He could have gone anywhere at that point.
I thought when your contract ends, you have 90 days following your contract. If you're released. If your contract just expires, it expires. It's done. Honestly, it would be at this point, Adam Cole is like, he's sort of on a sinking ship over there. And then there's a party cruise like 100 yards away. It's like, I could fucking swim over there.
Well, right now,
the sinking ship.
Vince McMahon's the fucking villain, Billy Zane in Titanic. Okay, he's the one that gets on the boat. Now Adam Cole,
I think you're confused, Dominic.
He's on the third floor.
You're saying that Vince McMahon is taking a boat over to AEW?
No, like Vince. So I'm saying the rescue. Like, okay, if WWE's a sinking ship, listen. Okay, here's my fucking analogy.
Vince is more like the captain going down with the ship, Dom.
No, he is not. So he's getting it. So Vince, okay, from a perspective
of fucking this all up.
I'm not fucking this up. All right, if you let me just paint this picture here, like Bob Ross, then I will show you what's going on. All right. So So Vince selling stock, releasing wrestlers, all this stuff. It's a sinking ship. Now Vince is not necessarily bailing on it, but listen, Vince is playing. He's protecting himself. He's looking out for himself, just like Billy Zane did in the Titanic. Okay, so he's getting on a boat, and that boat could still be WWE, but he's still riding away from stuff like that. While Adam, now if you stick around in WWE, the sinking ship. Not that it's a sinking ship, but I mean it's a huge conglomerate monster that's not going to sink it. Like it's there, it's an established brand. But Adam Cole's on the third floor of the Titanic, down in the level, working like one of the workers, one of the guys making that ship run, baby, like tossing it all out. He's going down with the ship. He doesn't got a chance. Like if he stays there, like Vince views him as that just a worker down there. All right. You can promise him the world, and how many times has he promised stars the world, like Rey Mysterio, like, hey, you sign with us, we're gonna put your son over, all that stuff. Look at what they're doing to Dominic Mysterio at this point. Just like boom, he's just there, and it's just they're not like promoting him basically. So it's just making all these promises, and hey, guess what? You're going down the ship. I'm looking out for myself though, Vince McMahon. I'm Billy Zane.
How many people just left this chat? I'm curious. I gave a very simple analogy about the sinking ship, and there's a cruise boat you're trying to swim to, and you just went off the rails.
I think Nesha got it. Okay, Dom, where are you going with this?
Nesha says Dom doesn't even know where he's going though. No. All right, Dom, what else is there? Are we ready to wrap it up here?
We got a few more things to talk about. Oh wow!
Here. By all means.
Let's see, Marcus. Yes, this is something we are excited for. Miro made the little pitch to our friend of the show, Eddie Kingston, about facing him. That's an interesting feud going on, huh?
Yeah, that would be quite something. Obviously, where I stand on that. A friend of the show, Eddie Kingston, is a friend of the show, but I don't think that anybody should be beating Miro. Period. And I don't care who it is. Yeah. Like Miro needs to remain undefeated. You need to position him properly, and again, that is so down the road. If a Daniel Bryan wraps up a feud with MJF or somebody else, let's even say 2 or 3 years from now. Maybe not 3 years; it's a long time, but we could say 2 years from now. Miro has just held this belt this whole time. He's come up against everybody, beat everybody. And so then all of a sudden he's going to get in the ring with Bryan Danielson or CM Punk for that matter, and you just make it mean more then.
I think you could really though,
or it could be a good way for Bray Wyatt to make a debut.
Yeah. I think though, like the way that you position Bray Wyatt, you don't need a title. You wouldn't need a title right off the bat. Now, I think you could tell a very interesting story though with Eddie. If he did upset Miro, and because Eddie's been the ultimate underdog when it comes to, I mean, you can make the argument for Darby too, but from his whole career perspective, Eddie's been the ultimate underdog when it comes to pro wrestling. So if you have him upset Miro, you could not only enrage Miro further, and then continue that feud for a while, where you make this a memorable feud, Miro and Eddie Kingston. You really tell a story around that, and then ultimately Miro wins the title back. And so I think that's another. I don't think you necessarily have to have Miro continue this run. It's obviously an option, but probably is what they're gonna go with. But I mean, I wouldn't be against Eddie actually pulling up an upset and getting that crowd really behind him as hey, Eddie he did it. That Miro's been unstoppable. But I think you could tell something to that effect.
I see your point. I do, but disagree. Okay. I really think that Miro's got to remain undefeated for basically as long as we can all stomach it. Yeah, he is the Goldberg of AEW, but in such a different way. He's not a ripoff of Goldberg. Because he's such a very, very different character, but he poses the same threat as Goldberg did, where it's just this guy can't be stopped. He's ripping people apart week after week. He's just an absolute fucking beast out there. And so they've positioned him really well. I think that having him get beat by anybody at this point, anybody within the next year, I think would be akin to strangling the golden goose.
Okay. No, I mean, obviously there's an argument for that. I just don't think it would necessarily halt momentum either with Miro if you had Eddie upset him and then you keep the rolling. As long as you tell a story with it, I think it's not a problem. You know, I think it just
No, and I agree. Long term feud. I mean, how about following the match, Eddie knocks him the fuck out with that back fist or whatever, and
yeah.
like it just something to perpetuate a feud. But no, Miro's got to keep winning, man.
Now, Marcus, I want to talk about this. We mentioned it way at the beginning with Punk. Um, so we happened to see on there a fan crying, like when Punk came out, and got a lot of people, Twitter being the negative space that it is, really went at this individual. And then you've seen a lot of it too. A lot of talent. Nyla Rose was one of them, being like, "Hey, like it's great seeing that emotion," and it's like and you kind of put in if you really like. If you, I mean, obviously we don't know this person's backstory or anything like that, but heck, you don't know what this person's been through throughout the course of whether it's the pandemic or years on, and like maybe this was his one solace thing is like enjoying wrestling, and like Punk was his man, and like here he's back in Chicago, and there it is. Like it could have really meant a lot to somebody like that.
That's the thing too, is like, a lot of it, you got to remember, it's like a lot of us are just like, oh, well, it's pro wrestling, it's fun, it's this and that. But like, if you're having a rough time, if you're going through something difficult in your life, and pro wrestling is like kind of your only means of solace, and like, let's say that this guy loved CM Punk, really identified with him, loved seeing him week after week, kind of helped get him through the week, and then all of a sudden that's gone, and it's gone for 7 years.
Yeah.
And then it returns. Like, of course the guy's going to be in tears.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I think it's a cool thing. It's a good thing for pro wrestling too. We need that kind of passion.
Heck, Punk was on the verge of tears too. Like so was I bet several fans watching last night, like on TV. I bet geez, but they got emotional. It was an emotional moment. It was cool. Like people get all kinds of charged up emotions when that shit happens, man. And but I wanted to kind of lean into this, Marcus. Is there a moment where you cried watching wrestling?
No.
Well, how about Brody? I think we both got kind of emotional. I know I got choked up with Brody.
Yes. When they played that Eagles song at the end of the Brody tribute episode, I didn't cry, but I got misty.
Yeah. I think at the beginning of Brody is when I got emotional pretty darn good. And I was covering the show that night too.
Yeah, that was a tough loss, man. Especially because, I mean, you knew how I felt about Brody, where it's like I thought he was incredible. I thought I thought as highly of him as I did of Miro, where I'm just like, this guy's awesome. Every time he comes out,
he was your guy. Like he was.
Yeah, he was my favorite guy in AEW. Mm-hmm. So it was heartbreaking to hear that news. Heartbreaking, not just from a fan perspective, but he's a family man, left behind wife and children. It's awful. So yeah, that was a really hard one. But no, I can't really think of a moment where I've actually choked up. Dominic, I know one where you did.
Oh yes, no, that's on a more lighter note. Yes, I did cry watching wrestling.
How old were you?
I was 13, I think.
Okay.
13, and it was a huge transitional moment for Marcus and I's wrestling fandom because who were we fans of but the Outsiders? Scott Hall was my guy, Marcus, Kevin Nash. So we're Outsider fans. That was our team, and that was the thing. So Slamboree 98 rolls around. 13-year-old Dom's watching the squiggly lines on pay-per-view, and what do I hear? But Scott Hall turns on Kevin Nash. I bawled. And I knew, I didn't know I wasn't I didn't think wrestling was real or anything like. But geez, it got me. It's like, hey,
the storyline hooked you.
The storyline hooked me. I didn't want to see that happen. Scott and Kev are buddies, and there we go. We broke it up. I remember crying when Marcus was in the shower too. Do you remember this? You were in the shower. And I said, "I'm sorry, Marcus," and you're like, "I don't get what."
Yeah, I was like 11 at the time, I think, and I was just like, "Dude, it's cool.
It's cool." Right. Yeah. Were we the Outsiders ever, Marcus? Yeah, I was. Yes. Well, okay. So, college 2009, Marcus and I
She
dressed.
might mean as like a costume, Dom.
Yeah, that's
Or,
what I mean. College of
oh, okay.
2009. I was Scott Hall. Our buddy Doug was Kevin Nash because he was like taller than me, and Marcus was Sting.
And in every photo, I'd be like way out in the
Moving in the dark,
background,
moving
like
in the
Sting
back.
in the rafters.
It was great. If we can find that photo, Marcus, I'll share that with people.
It's on Facebook.
Is it? Okay.
Yep.
Man, yeah, that's a great picture. Yeah, well, I'll share it. But,
Aaron said the CM Punk return gave him goosebumps. Me too.
right?
I got chills, and I'm not a person that gets chills often. I told Thunder Rosa when you and I talked to her that she is giving me chills. Like when her music comes on, and I see her come out, I get excited the way that I used to when I was a little kid and Kevin Nash would come out. But I feel that way about Thunder Rosa. She's unbelievable. But yeah, it's other than that, I don't really get goosebumps or chills. But yeah, CM Punk gave me chills.
I felt like a lot of happiness with Sting in the opening match. Like I thought.
Boy, Nesha's drawing a hard line though. She's like, I don't give a fuck. I knew he was coming.
Hey, Nesha, weren't you the one that was like, do you think he's coming? So you weren't all there.
A little excited. Admit it, Nesha, just a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, let's talk about this, Marcus. Paul White taking on QT Marshall. What'd you think of that setup? And then obviously we talked about it last week where it's like, hey, we could see that kind of happening. But what'd you think of the execution of it all?
It's a rush gimmick, it's a rushed angle. Does anybody think for one single solitary second that Paul White is going to lose a match?
So, but does that matter?
So here's the thing: is like Paul White is not going to be a full-time returning talent. What I would be doing if I was in AEW is I'd say, okay, let's give Paul White just a couple matches. And yeah, he goes over, he looks strong. Let him beat QT Marshall. Let him do all this stuff. But then eventually, or in short order rather, since he's not going to be having like a ton of matches, put him against somebody like Miro and have Miro beat him.
It's just I think WWE kind of ruined that in a lot of ways.
I don't know. It turns the dials more for me. Like him debuting against Miro. If you think about it, so Miro's red hot, and so you have Paul White come out and debut against somebody like Miro. All of a sudden it's like, okay, who goes over? Now this is a must-watch match. Like, okay, Miro's been unstoppable. Paul White, this is his debut. On paper, Paul White should go over, but who goes over?
Marcus, I think it's just too telegraphed, and I just don't think it really helps either one. Honestly.
What's not telegraphed about him and QT Marshall? We all know the outcome already. The match hasn't happened.
And I think, Marcus, it's on a level where it's like it's for Paul White. Like it's for fans to cheer Paul White. Whereas if you're booking him against Miro, it's like, all right, there is that thing, but we know Miro's going to win it. So there's not really a payoff.
No, you don't.
Yeah, you do.
No, you don't. No more than so. Look, the what was perfect about The Rock versus John Cena at WrestleMania the first time around was who goes over, right? You've got a star that has been with WWE, is an established star. Hold on, let me finish my thought. You've got a star that's been with WWE, has been grinding and working for WWE for years. You've got a guy who everybody knows is going back to Hollywood. So this match could be good for the same reason. You've got Paul White, who on paper should go over in the match, because it's his debut with the company. He's a big star. They're paying him a lot of money. So on paper, Paul White should go over in this match. However, you've got Miro, who's been this unstoppable force in AEW. So like as a fan, it makes you go, who goes over?
Oh, so you're saying it from a debut standpoint. You're not saying from like you book him in the match now. Like people are like.
I'm saying for Paul White's first match, like if he's not going to be a consistent talent.
Marcus, I think that's still too telegraphed. I just disagree with that. I just don't think it would do anything.
I don't think it's telegraphed at all. I think it's the opposite. I think QT Marshall versus him is telegraphed because, like I said, we all know the outcome.
And a positive, but that doesn't matter. Like we knew, like we all pretty much expected the outcome of Punk showing up, didn't we?
Sure.
So I don't think that's a bad thing. Let's say it's just like a good moment. Well, hey, people, they signed Paul White. They want to get him in. There's been teases of him getting in the ring. Everybody's expected him to get in the ring. He's going to get in the ring, and he's going to have a match against QT Marshall, and he's going to win. I don't think that's an issue.
How long is he going to wrestle?
Who does it matter?
Is it going to be a week-to-week thing? What does it do for anybody?
No, it's not, because he's a commentator. So you get him in there. That's what, let's be realistic here. That's what they signed to be a commentator
Yep.
and to wrestle here.
Yep. So
that's what they're doing.
He should be putting younger talent over. And
but he's in a position, Marcus, where Paul White is somebody that's lost consistently in WWE time and time again, where they haven't booked him. I don't think he's in a spot where he should be losing. So you book him against somebody like a QT Marshall where he gets wins. And like you get that nostalgic feeling of, hey, Paul White wrestled, he knocked QT Marshall out, choke slammed him, whatever. And then, okay, he's back in the booth. He'll come up and stand up for somebody else like Tony Schiavone or like just name your like Jake the Snake or somebody like that, somebody that's, maybe getting, a rough deal or something. But like now, I guess you could maybe play it off in a certain manner. I just don't certain things because I'm thinking like, okay, and this is a perfect lead in. Brock Anderson's taking on Malachi Black next week. So if you had, say like you had the hypothetical Malachi Black takes out Brock and then is just relentless with him. Say Paul White doesn't have an angle with that. You have Paul White come out and save him. Now, it would be an intriguing thing because Malachi Black's such a different style, I think, than Miro. To take out Paul White, I think that would be kind of interesting. So, I mean, I guess you could make an argument for it, but ultimately, I just don't think it really pays off to have Paul White put in a position like that at this point.
I like the Malachi Black idea even more than I like the Miro idea. It makes more sense. But, again, you get to that match. Okay, Malachi Black, new with the company. Paul White, never wrestled for the company yet. A wrestling legend who goes over. That's what makes it intriguing. And that's the point I'm trying to make with this whole thing.
I don't know. I think it's a good way to start Paul White off.
My point is that we all know that the business is a work, but sometimes you got to work the fans who think that they're smart and know what all the outcomes are. Because me personally, if Paul White is making his wrestling debut in AEW and they're announcing it and it's like a big deal, let's say it's happening at All Out, but his opponent is Miro, me as a wrestling fan, I'm like, I have no idea who goes over in this match. I don't know, which makes it a must-watch match.
Yeah. Rumar asks, what do you all think Ric Flair's role will be when he comes to AEW? Your gut feeling.
I would like to see him, as Dominic said, as a babyface commissioner of sorts.
But what's your gut feeling of how they're going to use him?
I think he's going to get involved with the Pinnacle, probably, and they might bring Brock and Arn Anderson into it too, and we're going to get kind of a quasi horseman type group.
I could definitely see him getting confrontational with MJF. But where would he fall in the landscape of things as somebody to put his chips behind on? That's who I'm thinking. Like, who would I position him behind? I see him more as a babyface. I don't see him aligning with Pinnacle or anything like that. Because Flair is Ric Flair. At this juncture, he's 71 or 72.
Hard to hate him. They're making him a heel.
Flair. Yeah. I mean, he was on the train. He wasn't on the train, but he doesn't ride trains and he doesn't ride Kias. Okay, but he. It's just like, yeah, Flair is Flair, man. So it's like, and it wouldn't make sense for him to be with MJF because MJF is somebody that would get, have animosity towards Flair, and Flair's at this juncture would be like, I'm not dealing with you, all right? That kind of thing, where it's just like, I know your game. I'm the dirtiest player in the game. I know your game. So,
well, that's why he would make a good commissioner. I think a babyface commissioner.
Yes, a babyface authority figure that's like kind of different. So it's like not your Jack Tunney, obviously. It's Ric Flair. So what is Ric Flair going to be doing when he's not there or commissioning? He's gonna be partying. Like, he's gonna be doing shit, and like, you can really play it up like, hey, or like Ric Flair's is sitting at a bar somewhere and he's like, you know what, I booked a match tonight, this is gonna happen and that's gonna happen, all right? You're going against him, you son of a bitch. And
you could have fun
party
too.
Down, longest ride, longest
you could have fun too. You'd have like a tray of kamikazes or whatever.
Yeah, right. Bring him over. Woo! Welcome to Dynamite.
I like it.
Yeah, that's how I would book Ric Flair. Now, gut feeling, I think he'll be in a confrontation with MJF. That's how they're going to introduce him. That's my gut feeling. But that's what I feel.
Well, yeah, I think that is a layup too. Probably going to wind up having a confrontation with Daniel Bryan, or not Daniel Bryan, MJF. I don't know. I was picturing like the whole four horsemen thing. I feel like that's something that Tony Khan is going to want in some capacity. I don't know.
I think there will be something to that effect.
I don't know how it's going to work though, because MJF is in the Pinnacle with Tully Blanchard.
And I think they're. And like Tully Blanchard's such a good heel, like you can't really. I don't know. Okay, this is what you can do. Heck, you promote the shit out of Ric Flair coming to AEW. All right, you can do this like 2 weeks or whatever, but make hate. Ric Flair's gonna be here. Okay, that's what's gonna happen. Hey, we're gonna have a 4 horseman reunion. Fucking JJ Dillon's gonna be there. Either. So like you promote the socks off of it. Arn's getting together. Tully's getting together, even though they're like like it's gonna be a reunion.
Bring in Barry Windham.
Bring in
Ole.
Bring Ole. Get the whole crew together. Lex, bring Lex there.
Roma, Paul Roma.
What do we bring Sid? Sid now. Sid's not there.
Probably not.
Not invited. So, but you have you got Tully and Arn kind of staring daggers at one another, but they're there. All right. Just out of a matter of being the 4 horse. Maybe JJ is playing the peacemaker here, okay? But Flair's out there, they're celebrating. Boom. You have MJF come in and kind of fucking ruin the party, okay?
Try to make himself the center of attention.
Makes it about him. Flair cuts a promo. They go back and forth at it. Just all right. Tully Flair gets the better of Tully. It's like things explode. Arn, Flair, it all gets all riled up and mixed up. And you have lines drawn in the sand and allegiances are made, and there you go. That's how I think so.
All right. I think that's good, Dom. I think that would work.
Hey, thank you.
Nicely done. Kevin Davis, what's up, man? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Guys, thanks to all of you for joining us. Dom, we're going to wrap this thing up. If that girl was still in here, what was her name?
Tammy?
If Tammy was in here, she'd be like, when is this shit going to end?
These motherfuckers still talking. SummerSlam's on, all right? It's going to be Cena and Reigns here soon. All right, we're almost done here. Marcus, Dan Lambert cutting that promo. Basement dwellers. Looking at weird, creepy shit on dark web. How'd you feel about that promo?
Underwhelmed, to be honest.
Underwhelmed, really?
Yeah, I don't know. It's I think it's they're trying to give something to Lance Archer. He doesn't have a lot going on, so that's cool. Because I think he's a talented guy and got a great look and all that stuff. But yeah, it was hard for me to care. It really was, because it's just like, okay, let's get to the good stuff, Yeah. So that would be the equivalent of like a Dungeon of Doom segment on WCW when the NWO was going wild, where it's like, okay, when are we gonna see like Juventud Guerrera do his Air Hoovy? When am I gonna see the NWO? When's DDP coming out?
So you think it's okay? I liked it a lot. I popped pretty good over it. I thought he was just fantastic at almost.
I mean, he's a good promo.
Vein popping almost out of his head, just screaming, fucking like really leaning into the fact of like people criticize AEW fans for and stuff like that, and that whole mentality. It was pretty damn good. And now was it a little rushed and stuff like that? How it all was executed? Yeah, I think a little bit because. Archer comes out, and why do Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page come out and attack him? Like, what's the, you had Junior Dos Santos and Orlovsky or whatever, I can't remember the guy's name, but the other big MMA fighter, you had them stand in the ring, and it's just that was kind of weird, but overall, I kind of liked it, and I think Dan Lambert's great, so I enjoyed it.
Well, again, it's like these guys aren't doing anything. It's like, okay, so Dan Lambert, let's bring him in. He's a good promo. Oh, cool. We can get the rub with these MMA fighters. That's sweet. Who can we position with him? Well, who's not doing anything? And it's like they just like throw them in. So it just makes it hard to really care about it. It's last week you and I talked about Sonny Kiss breaking up with Joey Janela, and I was like, okay, like I Haven't seen him in forever, so it doesn't mean anything to me. Kind of the same vibe here, where it's just like, okay, well, it was a segment. The guy's a good promo. That's about it.
Yeah, it's I think it was a neat aspect of it. I enjoyed it, but yeah, where are they gonna go with it? That's the question. Steven says not liking the Lambert and Archer promo. Sky and Page attacking Archer, not liking Archer as a face. He's better as a heel.
I agree.
I like him as a face. I think there's a lot of cachet to have a monster babyface because they have plenty of monster babyface heels. They have plenty of monster heels. So I think he would be a good. Aaron mentioned Flair pairing up with Hangman. I think that would be kind of a cool aspect. But I think you can have, like I said, Archer almost be a good here for Hangman here and there, a guy in his wings or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of agree with Steven, but thing is that we did Archer as a heel, and there wasn't much there. We're doing him as a baby face. There's not much there.
I just don't think it's been given the platform yet, really.
I don't think so either, and I think he needs a stronger gimmick because his gimmick right now is like he's angry all the time. He's kind of mean to Jake the Snake a little bit.
You have Jake turn on him. Have Jake turn on him, and like because Archer's proved that he can cut a promo now. Like he's good at cutting promos, I think. And so like, but you have Jake get somebody else, get another big heater against him, and have him align, and then have him be the mouthpiece and like really go after Archer. And I think that's a viable story you can tell. So, all right, yeah, we're just about done here. We did have Thunder Rosa, friend of the show, take on Penelope Ford. I thought that was a fun match. I think it furthers the story of Thunder Rosa, what we want to see and stuff like that, and positions. It makes Penelope Ford more in the mix. It's like focusing like more on the women's division with stuff like that. It'll be pretty neat to see. Like I want to see her be a focused Penelope Ford. I'm saying Thunder Rosa is obviously the one we really want to go all the way to. Britt Baker's obviously there, women's champ and all that stuff. So, but yeah, any comments on that, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, two women. One, of course, who's the best wrestler on the face of the planet, Thunder Rosa, and then you've got the other one who is honestly underrated. I think she's awesome. I love Penelope Ford. I think she's really good. I think she has a lot of room to grow and get better and better, and her finisher is sweet.
Yeah, it is pretty damn cool. Mm-hmm. I love Thunder Rosa's drop kicks, shotgun drop kicks in the corner.
Unbelievable, devastating.
Oh, we told her that.
Yeah, I told her I wanted to see her do it to what's his name?
Yeah, who was it? Dave LaGreca?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I thought that was good. And then, any thoughts on Young Bucks and Jurassic Express?
Same thought I had during the Jurassic Express tag team match at Rampage. I think it's basically everything I've been saying, where it's like cool spots that are very clearly set up, and like I'm not even like not executed smoothly enough to look like they're not set up. And you've got Luchasaurus acting like he's a cruiserweight when he should be focusing. The most intriguing thing that I see Luchasaurus do is grab somebody by the throat. Every time he does that, I'm like, all right, this is the guy. There's the guy that I want to see. This massive monster of a guy who can manhandle somebody by just grabbing them by the throat. Like that's the version I want to see, not this dude who does backflips just because it looks cool. You know what I mean? So it's frustrating. I trash Luchasaurus a lot, but the thing is that it's not because I hate him. It's because I see what he could be, and I wish he was that guy.
Yeah, I think they got to get there with him. I think that'd be pretty neat. And that's another thing too. You turn somebody like a Luchasaurus, there's a good guy to go up against a babyface Archer, I think.
I don't know if he's ever gonna do the right thing though. And I'm not saying that it's hard to word it, but essentially if he becomes a heel and he becomes like this monster, this scary monster heel, like I want him to become, he's still gonna want to do this stuff because he knows he can do it. So it's gonna take a road agent saying like, hey man, Like you have to stop doing flips for just for the sake of doing flips. Like just focus on being this big, brooding, scary heel.
I don't think that's far off to fathom, though. You have smart guys like Mark Henry and the Big Show back, or Paul White back there, and then you look at what Jericho did with Sammy Guevara, where like Sammy would wear the panda head coming out, and Jericho was like, "Don't wear that anymore." So I don't think it's far off to kind of think, I think it's a possibility. More, what else we got here? I like hey, Pac and Andrade. I'll pump for that. I think that's going to be quite the fucking match at All Out.
Must watch.
Yes. I really like Pac on the mic too, by the way. I think he's
great. He's great. He's great. Great intensity.
Mm-hmm. Great intensity. Really, really brings it. And let's see. Marcus, you know what we didn't do last week was our MVPs or your Meltzer rating.
Yeah.
How are we going to do this now, considering there's 2 shows?
I think it's just MVP of both, who was the standout of the week.
Okay.
And as far as Meltzer rating, I don't know. Should I just do like a week Meltzer rating? Like, how did the week go?
I think do it for each. Do one for each. What you thought of Dynamite, and then what you thought of Rampage.
Okay.
I think that's fair, right?
Yeah, sure.
Real quick, any thoughts on Mox and Daniel Garcia?
Yeah, I thought the finish was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mox stayed in the ring, which is something I've always talked about.
We talked about. Yeah, you texted that. He was like, "Yeah, Mox stayed in the ring." Yeah.
Yep. So I thought it was incredible that Mox actually managed to do a match and not go outside the ring and brawl. He just had a match. So it was good and a great finish. This kid leaned back and I'm like, how's Mox getting out of this one? And then he just like very abruptly hooks him and the match is over. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty damn neat. And Mox has been great on doing the promos too, both on Dynamite he had, and then on Rampage too. He did a really good job.
Absolutely.
And kind of leaned in like, hey, I'm gonna. He like even trashed Hangman and he trashed Christian too. I thought that was kind of neat too, and I'm kind of pushing in that regard. Wonder if that's a long-term tease for a heel turn, maybe.
Could be.
I don't know.
Are we doing MVPs?
Yeah, we're doing MVPs. We didn't mention this though, real quick. Statlander versus Baker, and Statlander's going up against Jamie Hayter next week. You like how that's all being positioned? And do you think you don't?
Nope. Hang on, giant spider I gotta kill.
Oh no, not a spider. Marcus, is a daddy long leg? You should leave those in the house because they tend to kill other bugs. He's doing it. He's murdering spiders, guys. What do you feel about that? Would you murder a spider in your house, or do you let him go?
Pretty sure that was a wolf spider.
A wolf one.
Yes, I don't need that in my house.
What do they do? What do wolf spiders do?
I think they're the ones that bite you and they give you that necrosis where it actually starts to rot your skin around where they bit you.
That's brown recluse.
Well, look up wolf spiders. I think they do something similar.
I don't know about that. Is that how werewolves begin?
I would like to think so. Anyways, Statlander, and I don't like it because I like Jamie Hayter a lot. And she's just coming back, and Statlander has to go over here. So I'm not crazy about it.
Unless then finish.
That's fine. I was just gonna say if it ends in a DQ, because it looks like Statlander's getting the advantage, and Britt Baker comes out and does her thing, then fine. But if it's a clean win for Statlander, they're not doing the right thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing though too. Like even if she wins, like you want Britt to retain ultimately. So even if they screw Statlander out of a finish, that won't seem right because she loses twice.
Right.
So, yeah, now that you mentioned that, like I like the intrigue of Hayter versus Statlander.
Sure.
It's like you're kind of putting yourself in a hard position there with both of those,
Yeah, that's so. I'm not crazy about that.
Yep. Oh, Becky is back. Wow.
I saw that. Yes.
How about that? Man.
All right. Well, they think it's going to help them compete.
We'll see that. I mean, they needed it. They needed something to charge it up. But again, Band-Aid on a fucking dam. All right.
Yep. That's it.
All right. MVP for the week. Who's yours?
No other choice. CM Junk. It's the only route.
It really is, especially if we're doing it for the week.
Yeah. No, that's a layup. CM Punk.
Such a layup. Marcus, was such a great moment in wrestling. Really, we're gonna look back on this, and I don't know how if we didn't even focus too much on it, but we're gonna look back on it. It's gonna be like, damn, what a moment in wrestling that was. You know,
No question about it. This is one of those things that, I mean, that's a wrestling moment I will always remember, because it was like, it gave me chills. It was incredible. The crowd reaction, the sound, the amount of noise that crowd was making, just insane, dude.
A lot of cool moments there, and like just the authenticity to it all too. Something.
Yep.
You know, and even you look back, like you didn't hear probably any of the scrum or the media call that him and Tony Khan did together, but like Punk talked about, like, you know, was pretty open about stuff for the most part, and like talked about, like, you know, hey, him and Tony have been talking a while. He's an AEW guy. He's not against necessarily either working at New Japan or working Impact, but right now he's AEW. He wants to be in the AEW pool kind of thing. And like just he's happy to be back. And like Punk even said during that promo that it wasn't, he never soured on pro wrestling, but it, like on loving pro wrestling, but it was, you know, being in WWE basically, like, and like just having that, you know, where he was, what you mentioned with that line where he's like, it wasn't a healthy, being in a healthy environment.
Right.
So, it's just neat to see somebody happy, somebody that wants to, he said too, he wants to help people. Like he wants to be like that, like help people like Terry Funk help him, and Dusty and Harley Race and listed all those names and stuff like that. So it's just neat to see like somebody that's excited and motivated. Punk, because Punk, you know, that's how we all felt. But like, well, he just doesn't, he might not be into it anymore. Like it just might not be his, like he might just be so scorned by it and everything like that. But it's like, but no, he's ready to roll, man, and it's good to see. So,
and fun time to be a fan. Steve wants to know if we think within a year they'll be able to fill a stadium. Yes.
You think so? That's
it depends on what route they take and how well they execute. But yeah, I don't see why not. And like, here's the thing: is like if you build CM Punk and
Bryan Danielson.
No, if you build the feud between CM Punk and Kenny Omega well enough and long enough, I think you could fill a stadium with it.
It's going to take some time, I feel. A year, possibly. We'll see how things go. You know, Meltzer said they couldn't fill 10,000 or what it was at All Out or All In, and look, they did it. So I mean, but like, hey, you know, a year from now, where is wrestling going to be at a year from now? Like the whole landscape could be extremely different. Like, and this could be the sign of it, the start of things to come. I don't know. Like that's what makes it exciting right now. It's such a fun fucking time to cover this stuff.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Hang on, I gotta stop my cat.
Uh-oh. Up to no good. Mon Bear doing it. Was he doing a Bam Bam Bigelow cartwheel? We'll figure out. Becky challenged Bianca. I wonder if CM Punk's ice cream. No, Jorge, I think that was a Chicago-based ice cream shop that they kind of worked a deal out with. But heck, I would not be shocked if we do see something like a ice cream bar that you know, gets sold at some point or another. Maybe Punk ice cream. Damn, I want some ice cream. God dang it, I love ice cream.
All right, we gotta wrap this thing up, Don.
Yeah.
Ice cream.
Your Marcus Meltzer rating for Dynamite.
For Dynamite, I'm giving it a solid 6.9.
6.9. Okay.
Yep. Good program.
Yeah.
As for Rampage, I mean, I can't go lower than an 8.6.
Yeah. So you're going to 8.6 then?
Yeah, and it's basically all Punk. You know, like it was a good event. Jade Cargill looked good. Tag match was there. Main event was cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, Punk nailed it, man.
Well executed show, and it was the right thing to put him on right at the opener too.
Yep.
So, yeah, man, it's a fun week. Gonna be even more fun coming up with All Out in the mix, and hell, CM Punk's back, baby. That's it, Marcus. I'll start with my plugs. You can follow me on Twitter right below. You see it there at Dominic DeAngelo. You can follow WrestleZone on Twitter at WrestleZone.com.
Sorry, my cat's being a nut.
Yeah, Dusty's kind of chilling out behind me here. He's doing all right. But as far as we never plugged this, and we really got to start. Check out if you're into WWE and you're watching SummerSlam right now. Becky Lynch is back, but like check out the post show that Colin Tessier and Robert DeFelice, the mercenary of pro wrestling writing, as they recap SmackDown on every Saturday morning. They do it. You can join in live like you do here. Also, John Clark and Colin Tessier do the NXT recaps too every Tuesday evening after the show, and then we have one with Raw too that John Clark and Colin Tessier participate in. So check those out. Interview wise, hey, speaking of, our managing editor Bill Pritchard actually interviewed CM Punk, talked about him being on heels. The new Stars show with Stephen Amell and James Harrison, Pittsburgh's linebacker, crazy linebacker. All that stuff. So check that out.
I didn't know James Harrison was in it. That's crazy.
Yeah, he is in it. He plays a wrestler in it. So
that's great.
How about that? And there's another interview that we got. Check out though on our feed there. Yeah, we got some interviews going.
Nesha, we're your favorite show. Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate that.
That's nice.
Appreciate it. Appreciate all you guys joining us this week. Yeah. You can follow me at Marcus P. DeAngelo on Twitter. You can follow this podcast at 2 Dynamite Dudes. And is that it? We got anything else?
I think that's it, brother. Yeah, just a fun time to be a part of this, and thanks for joining us, guys. Always good to get your feedback and input and your thoughts. You guys propose some interesting questions and stuff, so always appreciated. And yeah, what a fun freaking time to cover wrestling, huh? Good stuff.
No question about it. I couldn't be more thrilled to be watching it. Couldn't be more thrilled to be discussing it with people. We'll look forward to seeing you guys next week.
See you guys next week. It's going to be fun.
Bye, Ramar. Bye, Nesha, Benjamin, Aaron, all of you guys. Steven.
Yep.
Yeah, appreciate you guys joining us.
Rumar, and Jorge.
We'll catch you next week.
We appreciate it. All right, guys. See you next week. CM Punk's back. All right.
All right.